In an ever-connected world, scientists are increasingly working together to solve the biggest issues facing societies today.
There's huge potential here.
From health to energy and sustainability.
You're talking massive climate impacts.
This week on 10 Things to Know About, we're exploring the newest research and applications of one of the world's oldest crops, hemp.
Imagine a single crop, so versatile you could do almost anything with it. Make bread, clothing, shampoo, medicines, paper, even insulation. This wonder crop not only exists, it's one of the oldest cultivated crops in the world, farmed here in Ireland for the first time over 1,000 years ago. Despite this, the production of hemp on an industrial scale has been hampered by the fact that it's part of the same species as marijuana, Cannabis sativa. This stigma has also meant that research into hemp is decades behind research into other crops. Dr. Suzanne Schilling is studying the genetics of the hemp plant and is hoping to destigmatize the crop. Susanna, clear the air for me if you don't mind. What is the difference between hemp and a marijuana plant?
They are both part of the same species. Hemp will be more taller plants, they will be slender plants, whereas marijuana is smaller and more bushy. But the most interesting thing, I guess, for people to know is that hemp does have either a low level of cannabinoids or no cannabinoids, so hemp can't make you high, basically.
Talk to me about the different products you can make from this wonder plant, hemp.
You can really utilize the whole plant. The stem can be made into fiber, which can then be processed into ropes or textiles. And other parts of the stem can actually be used in a similar way as wood chippings, for example, either for making them into pellets for biofuel, or what we call hempcrete, which is an insulation material. What's really cool about that is that we actually are taking plant matter, which has taken CO2 out of our atmosphere, and we're storing that CO2 away. So in terms of CO2 sequestration, hemp is actually a really, really interesting crop. You can also use the flowers for medical applications, and the seeds are actually also very healthy for human and for animal consumption.
And of course, hemp could be used for clothing and textiles as well.
Exactly.
Did the criminalization of marijuana affect how we research a plant that's very similar but different, hemp?
Yes, for sure. So there has been some research always going on. However, the research into hemp has only really picked up, I'd say, in the last 10 years. And for other crops, for example, for rice, we've got a whole genome already 20 years ago. However, for cannabis, we only got whole genome in the last 3 years or so. Having the whole genome assembled, it can really accelerate research that you can do on the crop.
So we're really only catching up with hemp.
Exactly. Not only for research, but also for breeding. Your variation in the field would be much higher than, for example, in a barley field. And of course, for agriculture, you need a certain level of uniformity for the crop, for the farmer to be able to process it. Some plants flower much earlier, and some plants flower much later. If you're thinking about harvesting seeds, that is, of course, really important because you want your crop flower relatively early to give the seed enough time to ripen. Our group is really interested in the genetics of hemp and the different applications for breeding. One of the most interesting things for me as a plant biologist is actually that hemp has different sexes. So if you imagine your normal flower like a tulip, that will have male and female organs within the same flower. Hemp is actually different from that. So what you'll get is sometimes plants that do have male and female flowers, and other varieties will actually have male plants that just make male flowers and female plants that just make female flowers. Understanding this sex determination is a real challenge. There's really a long way to go until we fully understand that.
Less than 100 farmers in Ireland are currently growing hemp. Ed Hanbridge is one of them, and is hopeful that hemp production will spread, becoming an emerging industry in Ireland. What are you looking for in a good hemp plant?
So really, you're looking for, say, one that have a lot of heads.
Yeah.
Because the more heads that's on it, the more seed, and that's what I'm after, a seed. So you want it to yield well. So like say, look at the comparison there, like very little seed.
Oh right, yeah,
a lot of seed.
It's quite a sturdy stem now.
Yeah. And try and break it and try and the fibre is ridiculously strong.
Yeah.
That's why they made rope from it.
Yeah.
See the way it's peeling down there?
Yeah.
So that's your fibre.
Yeah.
And that is your shiv or your herd.
These are the seeds then, are they?
Yeah.
You eat them?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're very nutritious.
The taste is really mild. It's a very nice, mild, sort of nutty taste.
Yes.
Ed, how did you get into hemp farming?
I was living with a bunch of guys, and one of them was doing civil engineering. And he came home one day and said that there's a guy in his class doing his thesis on building an entire house out of hemp. And it was then that we sort of just started looking into it. And then in 15, when I started farming, I got my licence and put in the first crop of hemp, I'd say, in Wicklow in maybe 100 years.
Wow. You're farming this hemp for seed. What do you do with it?
We use it for oil production, for making the hemp seed oil and for the protein and the fibre then. Once the seed goes into the screw press, we extrude the oil. It's about 30% oil, and that's a polyunsaturated oil. So it's the good fats, but it's not a cooking oil, because once it goes above 130 degrees, it actually changes to a trans fat, and we don't want those fats. The cake then that comes out, it's a protein and the fibres. We then mill that and put it through a flour mill, and then we package that up. So it's really good to go into smoothies, shakes, that kind of a thing. The fibre then is a little bit more coarse, but it can go on to, say, breads and biscuits. But it's an easy transition, say, from your whey to your plant-based protein. Better than the soya because it doesn't have that estrogen. So it's a really, really good protein.
As hemp has not been bred to the same extent as other crops like wheat and oats, there's a lot of variability between hemp plants in the field, making it more difficult for farmers to know how much yield they will get. However, it also means that new varieties of hemp can be bred with specific traits to suit particular end products. Suzanne's research is not only focusing on the genetics of hemp, she's also hoping to discover even more uses for the crop.
Maybe you've heard about prebiotics, which is fiber that your positive gut bacteria can feed on, and that will make your gut microbiome much more healthy. And this is also to be found in hemp. We are collaborating actually with a researcher in Queen's University in Belfast. And while we will be growing the plants and measuring different traits and harvesting them, he will then go and analyze the compounds that are potentially anti-inflammatory and that can be really positive for human and animal health.
It sounds like there's so much potential in this crop. What are you hoping to achieve with this project?
We want to really promote hemp as a crop to be grown in Europe and specifically in Ireland. And in collaboration with Queen's, we hope to get an all-island approach to hemp agriculture and breeding.
Ed, where has hemp been all our lives?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Where has it been? It can feed you, it could fodder your animals, it can clothe you, it can house you, it can heal you. Now we know what crop we need. The research that Suzanne is doing will give us that best crop to suit that product. So we can have taller crops, we can have higher yielding crops, we can just grow better crops. The average age of a farmer now, it's like 65. We need something to really reinvigorate farming. Maybe we'll be able to capture the imagination of some of those young farmers and bring them in. Maybe we won't worry about where it's been, but let's be happy that it's here now.
It's World War II. The Allies and Axis powers fight each other across land, sea, and air. In secret, the race is on to develop the atomic bomb. But that is not the only race that is being run. In fact, it turns out that both sides had identified a key resource needed to keep battling on: hemp. Vital for ropes in the Navy, webbing in parachutes, and shoelaces in soldiers' boots. Germany and America employed bizarrely contrasting ways of getting farmers to grow more of the wonder material. Nazis and poetry don't often go together, but the Third Reich penned a cultivation guide that was literally called the Funny Hemp Manual. As expected, it was filled with wording on Aryan self-reliance, but playfully outlined how farmers could grow hemp through the medium of rhyming couplets. Who grows hemp today with a busy hand helps themselves and the fatherland. By contrast, the Americans went full propaganda on it, producing an official film called Hemp for Victory, outlining the ideal soil type, planting technique, and harvest methods. And as history is written by the victors, once the war was won, hemp's vital role was erased, with the US government denying ever having made such a film until a copy mysteriously ended up in the hands of a journalist. From fighting fascists to hemp for Hitler, turns out that the chronicles of this cannabis crop are becoming curiouser and curiouser. See you next time.
Many everyday products are made using fossil fuels and petrochemicals. We need to find sustainable alternatives, and hemp may be part of the solution.
As the Energy and Rural Development Specialist in Teagasc, Barry Castellan is looking at how hemp could be used in different industries, whilst providing new possibilities for farmers.
There's a major frenzy about hemp for the last number of years. A lot of farmers are looking to diversify into new areas, and they're looking at land use alternatives. So hemp would be considered a break crop or a good rotational crop within tillage cropping systems. The taproot nature of the hemp breaks up the soil, so it goes down a couple of feet into the soil and improves the aeration within the soil. Many of our soils have become compacted over the last number of years with heavy machinery, and this helps improve the soil structure by aerating the soil, so it brings the soil more alive in terms of making earthworm activity, and microbial activity increases in the soil as a result of it. Hemp is a very versatile product. It can be used for about 50,000 different products, but I think that we should be focusing on just a couple of key areas. I think the construction industry is one of those areas that we need to be focusing on, because there's a great potential of using hemp. So if you take the hemp stem, the outer part contains the fibres, and the inner pith contains the hurd or the shiv, and that can be used for producing hemp blocks, which can be used for construction. You can also use the outer layer, which is the fibrous material, can be used for insulation material in our houses.
Hemp could be grown as a building material for the construction industry, as well as benefiting farmers as a break crop. We went to the ploughing championships to see what is known about hemp and whether more farmers would be interested in growing it.
I actually have heard of hemp, being used in construction, because my son, for his Leaving Cert building project, he used it. He did a little corner foundation and a little bit of a building, and so he used hemp as opposed to concrete.
Would I consider growing hemp? Absolutely. I'm an organic tillage and bee farmer. We're always looking for break crops, fertility building crops, conditioning crops, and hemp would be a wonderful crop in order to do that. It ticks all the boxes.
Yes, as a farmer, I would be interested in trying new ideas, and so possibly growing hemp would be one of them.
The issues that we're finding with it is that if we grow it, we've nowhere to go with it. There doesn't seem to be an infrastructure. It's no point growing any crop if there's nowhere to go with it afterwards, you know. But absolutely, it would be a very useful crop.
Oh, it's a no-brainer. It's obviously for carbon sequestration. Hemp is above trees. A forest sequesters carbon, obviously, but it takes a long time before it gets to be in a forest, whereas a hemp, within a year, you've got the equivalent of a forest. And obviously you can make boards in which you can build houses with. You don't have to cut trees down. It grows quicker. It just makes sense, to be honest.
Farmers are looking for diversification opportunities, especially at the moment when we have this drive for 25% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions within the agricultural sector. There's no structures or markets around industrial hemp in Ireland at the moment. I think that will grow over time. I think that farmers, if they saw those supports, they'd have more confidence in terms of growing the crop. At the moment, we can't process fibres in Ireland, which is unfortunate. All we're doing is we're processing the hemp seed and producing a food supplement. But we need to be able to use more of the plant. And even from a carbon sequestration perspective, we want to be locking up that carbon in the walls of our houses, in our roofs as insulation, and in our floors. Because there's been many false dawns and different types of diversifications in the past, and they don't want to get burnt. So I think that it'd be very, very important that as this industry develops, that, you know, it's given the right type of government support for industry to develop.
We all know the story of the three little pigs. The big bad wolf was able to blow down the house made of sticks and straw, but the house built of bricks stood strong. Well, I'm about to discover how to build a house out of crops that even the big bad wolf couldn't blow down.
I'm in County Down to meet architect Tom Woolley, who is a big advocate of building with hemp.
Tom, explain to me what hemp concrete is.
OK, well, it's a mixture of hemp and lime. So if you look at the house behind, it looks like an ordinary concrete block house that's been rendered, but actually it's a timber frame house. And then we cast hempcrete around that, just like you would cast concrete.
So this house is entirely built by a crop that was grown in a field?
Yes.
It's very hard to believe that this is made by hemp. It just looks like a regular building.
Yeah, people don't have to be worried their neighbours are going to think they've got a weird hippie house or anything. Because it will just look like an ordinary house.
And what are the benefits of hempcrete over normal concrete?
Concrete has no insulation. So if you're building concrete walls, you'll see that the walls are getting wet. And then they're stuffing polystyrene or some other plastic material into the cavities. Hempcrete is so much more sophisticated and innovative. Hempcrete is hygroscopic. That means that you have no risk of mold and damp. It's able to absorb moisture. It's healthy, it's completely non-flammable. You can't burn it at all. There's no toxic chemicals involved either. But the great advantages of hempcrete is anybody can do it, self-builders can do it, and it's also relatively cheap. The raw materials are cheap.
Yeah, it's like a one-stop shop. It solves all your problems, condensation, insulation, building in one material. And can it do structures bigger than a house?
Yeah, there's a 12-storey office building in Cape Town currently being renovated with hempcrete blocks. We've renovated the old boiler house in Ballymun. It's a building called the Rediscovery Centre, and that's still the biggest hempcrete building in Ireland. There are 30 or 40 hempcrete houses in Ireland, but there should be thousands. Everyone's talking about net zero, zero carbon. Well, hempcrete is the best zero carbon thing you could possibly find.
With all its benefits, hempcrete sounds like it would be more than just a replacement for concrete. Tom said that anyone could build with it, so I want to see how easy it really is to make.
First of all, what we're doing is we're using this hemp shiv. So that's a chopped up woody core of the plant. We mix this lime binder. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a small amount of water. The consistency we're aiming for, to use a cookery term, is apple crumble.
Can I have a go to see what it feels like?
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, I'm not dressed appropriately now, but oh yeah. It's really thick and dense. Like I can see it's a workout to mix it.
But it also shows that anybody can do it.
True.
You've only known about hempcrete for half an hour and then you're
we're already making it.
You know? So what we do is we just put it into the shuttering and then we just press it in, like that.
So how long do you leave that to set for?
So I can take the shuttering off immediately.
You just take it off immediately? What?
That's it.
Wow. Amazing.
It's a bit wet and sticky at the moment, but within 12 hours that'll have set hard.
Here we go. Hemp is the future of building materials. It's been around forever.
It's amazing stuff.